What if I told you the weight you carry from those days was never yours to bear? What if I said the way your mother and father treated you had nothing to do with who you are, and everything to do with who they weren't allowed to be? If you've ever leaned into a quiet corner after dinner, heart heavy, wondering, was I not enough? This is for you. The table sits before you. Warm plates, empty words. You try. A funny story from school, a dream about a new toy, a whisper of hope. Silence. A flick of your mother's head, a distant glance from your father. Not now, one of them says. And in your 9-year-old chest, your small voice shrinks. It is confirmed you were never seen. You learned quickly how to disappear. This happened with you more times than you can count. Your mother looked at her phone, your joke passing through the air like a ghost. Your father stared at the wall, eyes blank, as you tried again and again to say the class play was tomorrow. You matter, but you were taught otherwise. Under that quiet there was an echo. The echoes of your parents' own unspoken stories. Your father, who once held his tears in a dark hallway until they broke him. Your mother, who left home before sunrise to work 2 jobs, never allowed a moment to say how she felt. They brought their survival tactics home, not out of cruelty, but because they never learned softness, and so the pattern repeats. The same 3 words slip between the clink of cutlery. Not now. You learn to wait. You learn that asking for space means being dismissed. And in that quiet, your heart tightens. A few nights later, the rain still falls. You sit in your bed, knees drawn close. The only sound, your own breathing. You whisper, "Why wasn't I enough?" It is confirmed your question was never answered. But here's the truth. You were enough. Always. As the camera shifts, anime scenes folding from silent dinner to your adult self, tapping a thumb against a forgotten text, you feel it again. That hollow ache. That this is still you. You stare at your reflection in the dark window, the city lights shimmering back. You matter, and this is just the beginning. You're standing in that familiar moment again, on the edge of something small, a glass tipping, a book falling, a heartbeat too loud. You didn't mean to knock it, but it happened. Then your father's voice, sharp, sudden, or your mother's eyes, cold, disappointed. You freeze, your chest tightens, the room spins. This happened with you. You learned to flinch at the sound of raised voices. You learned that accidents turn into proof of your worthlessness. Imagine this again. A 10-year-old stacking books, dropping one, feeling eyes sharpen. Suddenly your father explodes. "Can't you do anything right?" The words are not aimed at the book, but at you. And despite your innocence, you shrink. Your mother's anger wasn't about the spilled water. It was about her exhaustion, her buried guilt. Your father's rage wasn't about you. It was years of buried grief. Maybe a partnership that failed, a job slipping away, a faded dream pressed deep in his chest. And you became the lightning rod. You walked on eggshells. You framed every move, every breath around, avoiding storms. But you weren't the storm. You just lived in its shadow. Then morning arrives, cool air, new day. But nothing is spoken, no apology. The silence is louder than the yelling. Your mother pours tea. Your father reads the newspaper. You eat cereal, alone, spoon trembling, under an invisible weight. It is confirmed. You were taught that pain can be ignored, that yelling can be followed by silence, and life goes on. A day goes by. A week passes. You carry the ache to school, to your bed, to your dreams. Without an apology, you learn you were overreacting, that your feelings were too loud. It happened with you. You swallowed the hurt whole because no one said, "I'm sorry." And later you realized your father never knew how to say those words. Your mother never learned how to face what she broke. They weren't taught to heal. So they moved on, leaving you with a bruise and no voice. Then there are nights you cried because your mother said you were too much, because your father rolled his eyes when you showed emotions. The way they watched you pour your heart out, only to discount it. Stop being so dramatic. You make everything into a big deal, and every time a part of you shrank. It is confirmed. You learned to dim yourself. You censored your laughter, voice, desires. You started believing you were broken rather than bruised. But your sensitivity wasn't a flaw. It was a signal, a red flag that something inside you sought to be seen, to be felt, to be held. Instead, your mother taught you that emotions are messy. Your father taught you that vulnerability is risky, and you internalized it all. Remember the time you stayed silent during lunch because the memory of messy tears at home, was too heavy. You let a whole day go by without eating. You matter, but you were taught you didn't. Your phone lights up. It's your father or your mother. You see the name. You don't pick up. Not because you don't love them, but because you can't. Because loving them means reopening a wound you've spent years trying to close, and you feel guilt. Crushing, heavy guilt. This happened with you. You've made excuses before. I've been busy. Next time, I promise. But the truth is, every time you go back, something in you gets smaller. Because your father asks how you are, but not really. Because your mother wants to know about your job, but not about your pain. Because love has always come with a weight, and you're tired of lifting it alone. It's confirmed. You felt this distance. You needed it, like oxygen. You started to realize that your peace matters more than pretending. But guilt crept in. Culture said, family is everything. Friends said, but they're your parents. Your own heart said, maybe I'm being selfish. But you're not selfish. You're surviving. This is still you, learning to breathe in places where you used to suffocate. And that is not betrayal. That's healing. You grew up in a home where fighting was furniture, always present, always part of the design. You remember it. 1 a.m., the plates still on the table, the yelling starting like thunder. Your father's voice booming, your mother shouting back. Then a door slams. You, 8 years old, curled on your bed, pretending you don't hear it. You pray that if you're just quiet, if you're just good, it'll stop. It didn't stop. It happened with you. And then came the role, the fixer, the peacemaker, the one who made tea the next morning, smiled extra big, made fewer mistakes. Because in your child heart, you believed, if I'm perfect, they'll be okay. If I do everything right, they'll stop hurting each other. But they didn't stop, not because you weren't good, but because their pain was never yours to fix. It is confirmed. You were born into chaos and taught to normalize it. And now, in adulthood, conflict makes your stomach drop. You overthink. You replay conversations. You apologize even when you didn't do anything wrong. Because your nervous system still believes every argument could break the world. You matter. And it's time you stopped living like love has to be earned by walking on glass. Have you noticed how your anxiety tricks you now? You reread texts. You apologize too much. You freeze when confrontation glimmers. This is still you, but you are transforming. All those survival habits, they were necessary once, but they don't serve you anymore. Now begins the work of unlearning. It starts with the whisper, I deserve repair too. It grows into speaking up softly, setting boundaries, honoring small joys. You begin to reparent yourself. You send kindness in your mind. It's okay. You're allowed to feel. You're allowed to ask. And slowly, gently, the narrative shifts. Soft orchestral swell, visuals, sunrise anime, gentle steps forward. Your mother didn't know how to love you the way you needed. Your father didn't either. But that doesn't mean you weren't worthy of love. It just means they were limited. And now you get to be free. You were never too much. You were never too sensitive. You were just asking for the love they didn't know how to give. But now you are learning to give it to yourself. And this is where it turns. Because the story doesn't end in hurt. It doesn't end in silence. It doesn't end in distance. It ends here, in your voice, in your healing, in your becoming. You are not broken. You are becoming something stronger than what raised you. And it matters. Because you matter. Always did. Always will.